The Zimbabwe Nomination Court has received nomination papers for aspiring candidates from different political parties. And this is ahead of the general election planned for August. The court considers and accepts candidates who qualify to run for the presidential, the National Assembly and the local authority poll. Several candidates have successfully submitted their applications, including the current president, Emerson Mnangagwa, Nelson Chamisa of the Citizens Coalition for Change, and former Minister Xavier Kasukuwere. It's unclear when Kasukuwere will return to Zimbabwe, when he is expected to launch his campaign.
I came over here to honor the work that they are doing and to show that I submit myself to the constitutional process. And I've been told that my papers have gone through very well. And so far, I understand there are so many citizens who are standing for the presidential post. Some have been cleared, some are in the process of being cleared. And so far, I'm told that countrywide, the process is going very, very well. I'm happy.
We have managed to file our papers. We have concerns around certain of the issues, particularly the issue of the voters' roll. But it's an issue that we hope is going to be resolved. Once the candidates have been nominated, the next hurdle is the issue of the voters' roll and the issue of making sure that all those who registered and participated in 2018 or post-2018 as registered voters, their names have to be reflected. The information we have so far is that most of the names are missing, and we would want to understand why, and that issue has to be rectified.
Coming back to play a part in the politics and participate in these elections is meant also to ensure that we send a very clear message to the world that Zimbabwe is there for all of us. Zimbabwe is a place where we can see our hopes and dreams succeed. We're coming to work, to toil, and ultimately I have no doubt that we shall come up. We shall be victors in our journey together. We shall build an economy that we want.
So my papers, among the 4, have already been announced as successful. So I am already successfully nominated the presidential candidate.
Let's stay with the story now and speak to Zimbabwean scholar, Professor Ibbo Mandaza, who is currently in Accra in Ghana. Thank you so much, Prof, for your time. Those who aspire to lead Zimbabwe had submitted their documents. So where to from here in terms of the process?
Well, as I say, it's game on. Game on. Of course, there's also a big list. But I think you have to reduce it to 3 candidates, Mnangagwa, Chamisa, and Kasukuwere. They are the main contenders.
And there's huge interest in Xavier Kasukuwere. Who is he?
Pardon?
There's a huge interest. A lot of people are seemingly talking about... Are you able to hear me, Prof?
You are breaking. I can't hear you.
Is it better now? Prof, is it better now?
Can you repeat that, please?
I was just saying, Prof, that there's a huge interest in Xavier Kasukuwere. For those who do not know him, who is he?
Well, he's a former member of Parliament and minister. Was one of those who was ousted at the coup in 2017. And supposedly belonged to the so-called G40, which faction lost in that coup. He held very important positions. He was political commissar for ZANU PF, was Minister of Local Government, was Minister of Indigenization, so he held very important posts in ZANU PF over the last 23 years. So is a formidable factor, at least in terms of intra-ZANU PF politics. And I think his impact will be mainly vis-a-vis Mnangagwa, given the backdrop of a coup which really was based on a division in ZANU PF, if you can call it a civil war, so to speak, which has left the party very divided, and even ethnically as well.
So,
because clearly, yes.
So definitely him joining the race is not something that needs to be looked at, quite lightly. It's likely to have an impact, I think. If listening to what you're saying, then particularly in the intra-ZANU PF politics, as you say, it's likely to have some kind of impact in terms of the presidential contest.
Yes, so definitely. I think two possible scenarios. One in which he whittles at Emerson Mnangagwa's base, and significantly so, if also because, as I've just said, of the enormous divisions within ZANU PF. And so it's not so much to do with the nature of the challenge that Kaskwere offers. It has to do more with Emerson's position in the party, in which, even on the basis of the last election, he lost in almost 150 seats, constituencies, where ZANU PF MPs won. Significantly, for example, ZANU PF won all 9 seats in Matabele North, but Mnangagwa got 5% of the vote. He lost in Manicaland. So his record is not very, very impressive, and therefore our expectation is that Kaskwere might eat into his whatever base he has. But also, secondly, I think Kaskwere might be more than the proverbial cat among the pigeons. It might also affect Shamisa's chances. And our estimation is that we'll probably have a hung outcome requiring a runoff, on the basis of which some of us would say it would be an occasion for a coalition government thereafter.
And that would be
instead of a runoff.
That would be very, pardon me, Prof, for coming in there, pardon me. That would be very interesting. But also another thing to look at, I mean, particularly around this time, the Electoral Commission is also finding itself in the spotlight, looking at what has been happening in the process leading up to today. Is Zimbabwe ready for elections?
Well, we have argued several times before that the conditions are less than conducive to a free, fair, and credible election. But however, the parties that be appear prepared to be oblivious of those conditions, including the possibility that, as happened before, ZANU PF or the state will rig the election. But Shamisa has been almost oblivious of that, even as he's filed his papers, as complaining about the voters' roll. In our view, he should have stood his ground and insisted that the conditions for a free, fair, and credible election be established before an election be held. But he thinks that God is in it, and therefore he will win regardless. So we have all the prospect of another disputed election, even though it might be interesting with respect to the presidential election in particular.
Definitely.
In the form that we have seen.
Yeah.
We also have a number of civic bodies who have been monitoring the process, who aim to have enough polling agents so as to minimize the prospects of a rigged election. But all said and done, the elections are on the 23rd of August. So we wait and see.
It's going to be an interesting one, as you say, Prof, and looking at the work of election observers and how important it should be that they need to be starting to monitor these particular processes at the moment. But let me thank you for your time, Prof. Do appreciate those insights. That's Professor Ibbo Mandaza, Zimbabwean scholar and political analyst.